A video.
Come.
Say something on the video.
I got my granny's quilt. She made it out of her old wore out dresses during World War II, Logan. And now there's little pieces that are coming loose in this quilt that Linda put lace around it.
Why is the pieces coming loose? Was her dresses worn out?
Yes, the material from her old dresses is probably about 80 years old or older. And so now I'm going through this quilt and I'm sewing up the little pieces that have come pull loose. And as you can see, it's beautiful from her old dresses, and Linda was nice enough to put a new back on it of flowers, and also it's got my name on it here. You see my name? Can you see my name? Everybody knows this quilt belongs to me. And then it is got the lace all the way around it.
On the top. I don't think it's all the way around. It's just on the top.
Her old dresses, I remember her wearing them, and she used, like this one, she liked to wear it to church. And when her dresses wore out, she didn't throw them in the trash. She cut them in pieces and worked them in and made quilts out of them, don't you see? My granny, I'm like my granny. I don't throw stuff away. She never throws nothing away. And you see, her old dress is about 50 or 60 years old. And then now some of the material wore, but I'm gonna fix it. So younger people need to learn to make do and go back and use some things that are wore out and fix it. Like this is when I get through, and Linda worked on it, now I'm going to work on it, and when I get through, it'll be a good quilt and I will use it. And you see on the back of it, it's brand new, you know. So I can use this part next to me where I won't tear the old part that's on top that's so pretty. Now, my granny, she liked color, and these were some of the old dresses that she wore. But you see, she wasn't a dull granny. She liked the colors. See how bright they are? My goodness, look how much money she saved by using old dresses to fix. She made lots of quilts, lots and lots of quilts. So keep that in mind and keep some of your old stuff and redo it. You can make from an old dress, you can make your baby a shirt, or you can make a little dress for your baby from your old dress.
Can you do that by sewing by hand?
Yes, you can, of course. And I've hemmed my own skirts up with a needle and thread, and I've made big old circle skirts that I wore my can under with a needle and thread. My goodness. It's time for everybody to get back to basics. Kind of like making your own bread with the flour and the baking powder and the milk and shortening, rather than running to the store for a loaf of bread. You could make biscuits. And of course, the wonderful cornbread that Grandma Mac made, and her flapjacks were to die for. They were like pancakes. And of course, the squaw, what they call squaw bread that the Indians ate, but they used a black wash pot that you boil cut up pork in and made grease, and then they mix up biscuit dough and take a big spoon and throw the biscuit dough in there from a big spoon, and it'd fry up. Then they'd sprinkle sugar on the top or pour honey on it, and they called it squaw, Indian squaw bread. And you didn't put no egg in it, no shortening. You just fried it in the hot grease, and then you reached in there with a big thing and dipped it out and poured honey on top. When me and Robert were on our honeymoon, we came across a bunch of Indians that was cooking squaw bread when we camped out and put a tent up in Rio Dosa for our honeymoon to save money from getting a motel, and we had brought a tent, and these old Indian women were cooking, had a wash pot, and they had grease in it, and they was frying the biscuit dough in it.
Oh, that's great.
And we stopped, and I said, could we buy a piece of bread? And they was putting them out there on the board to cool. And I said, I want a hot one. And so they go, well, have you got $1 a piece for a piece of that bread? And so I said, well, I want 2 pieces. So they squirted some kind of syrup on it and handed it to me. And so I asked them, do y'all have a napkin or something? It was drippy, and they tore off a piece of paper towel or something there, and so it was drippy. So when we got up there to our camp spot to throw the tent up, we sat there in the car and ate our hot squaw bread for our supper, so we didn't have to build no fire or nothing. And then Robert got the tent out, and he's like, I want the Boy Scouts to come by, and I'd give them $1 to put this thing up. I never put a tent up. And so he started throwing a sheet of a tent on the ground that was just a straight sheet. I said, yep, that's the way Billy always puts one of them down like that. Then he puts the tent on top. So he built the tent, and we found out in the night that, guess what? The floor part was supposed to go on the top, because the top of the tent was kind of like, it didn't have no top, and that what was on the bottom of the floor was supposed to went on top of the tent. And everybody knows in Rio Dosa, when the sun goes down, it's cold. So anyway, before morning, Robert throwed the blanket over on me and said, you tell them, you take the quilt and you tell them what happened when morning comes, that I froze to death because we put the top of the tent on the floor. And I said, that's silly. I said, come on, let's go get in my new Toyota and we can stay warm at least. So we went and got in that car. I started the motor up for a little bit, then turned it off, and we went to sleep. Now, that's my honeymoon story, all right? Okay, y'all have a good day. Bye. Oh, Linda.